Hi, everyone. My name is Bob Brinkman, and I'm one of the writers here at Goodman Games. I'd like to start by welcoming all of the new players that have been joining the DCC and MCC communities recently. There have been so many new names and faces and points of view and creative ideas pouring in that it's made it a really exciting time to both run and play DCC. So since we're just now starting to get to know all of you, I thought I would tell you a little something about all of us. And while it's no secret, we here at Goodman Games read a lot. We read so much that the community supports not one, but 3 literary podcasts. I co-host 2 of them. So what sort of stuff are we reading? And why is it so important with everything that we do? Well, primarily we read books and authors on a list referred to as Appendix N. Joining the community, you may or may not have heard the term before, but now that you're here, you're going to hear it a lot. It even shows up in the DCC core book. Appendix N is a list of inspirational materials that Gary Gygax put together and dropped into the appendices of the first Dungeon Master's Guide. It was Appendix N, and so it will now and forever be Appendix N. These stories and authors are the wellspring from which all fantasy role-playing games flow. While there are plenty of authors that we think are also important and inspirational that didn't make the cut for the list, those that are on it, there isn't a single person that isn't worth reading. So if you look at the materials that we have released, you can start seeing comparisons pop up, right? Lord Dunsany wrote The King of Elfland's Daughter. Michael Curtis created the adventure The Queen of Elfland's Son. There is both a story and an adventure called The People of the Pit. By trying to capture that true old school feeling, it helps us define, I guess, our adventure identities. And that's something that you as a player or a judge do as well. What sort of games do you want to play in? What sort of games are you interested in running? All of these authors offer different sorts of materials and different inspirations. They're not the only things you want to read, but they're a good starting point. So if you're interested in running adventures set in a city with smoke and fog-filled alleyways where thieves face off against the city guard and warriors face off against strange and corrupt wizards, well, you want to start with Lankamar by Fritz Lieber, the stories of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. I would suggest starting with Swords Against Death, which is the second book in the series, but it's the first chronologically. It gives you an introduction to everybody and gives you a solid foundation on what's going on. If you're interested in devious wizards and magicians on a dying planet under a dwindling sun, you want to read The Dying Earth by Jack Vance. And you can start with either The Dying Earth or Mazarian the Magician. Both are great. Both are going to give you a solid idea of what you can draw to that sort of world. If you are, like a lot of folks, kind of tired of generic fantasy medieval Europe, maybe try something a little more Appalachian. Manly Wade Wellman wrote a series called John the Balladeer, and also known as the Silver John stories. Sure, the stories are set post-Vietnam, but the materials in them are filled with great ideas. You can start with Oh Ugly Bird, or you can even read the prequel, Frogfather, which gives you a great idea of bits and pieces of American folklore that you can draw upon, which a lot of gamers have never encountered. It's something new, it's something fresh, and yet it is something old and classic. There's other authors on the list like H.P. Lovecraft, who, let's face it, if you haven't heard of H.P. Lovecraft, right, Cthulhu, Nyarlathotep, all of the dark cosmic horror. Well, I would start with The Shadow over Innsmouth. It's a great story. It inspired the DCC 2017 Halloween module, Shadow Under Devil's Reef. There is fairy tale adventuring. Like I said, Lord Dunsany, the King of Elfland's Daughter, and other materials that he wrote have that dreamlike quality that are amazing to read and draw upon and still seem so fresh despite having been written so long ago. If you are interested more in barbarians with mighty thews, obviously you want to read Robert E. Howard's Conan. Tower of the Elephant is Joseph Goodman's favorite Appendix N story. Red Nails inspired classic game designer Janelle Jacquet's and her adventure Dark Tower, considered one of the best adventures ever written. But there's also Gardner Fox and his Kothar series. And you could start there with Kothar Barbarian Swordsman. There is so much material here. And I don't want to say that you should restrict yourself only to Appendix N. Plenty of authors didn't make the cut. Clark Ashton Smith didn't make the cut. But you can't go wrong by reading any of these folks. And that's just sort of the tip of the iceberg. But that is where we come from. That's where our game design ethic is coming from, where the stories we want to tell springs from. Appendix N and these classic authors. And we think that they're worthwhile and you should take a look yourself. So I'll cut it short there. I could go on for days about Appendix N, and I have before, so we just won't do that. But again, welcome to the community. I look forward to sharing a table with you. We're all excited that you're here, and be inspired.